So frame 4, this is the last before the interval. Robertson, as I say, you're looking in these multi-session matches to win each mini session. If you do that, you'll win the match. So if you could just take a 3-1 lead, you'd be more than satisfied. The real battle is going to come tonight, but of course he wants to put himself in a position where the pressure's on OSullivan to make some sort of comeback.
Yeah, this afternoon, this session is all about positions. Where are the players going to be going into that final session tonight? You want to try and get as much of an advantage as you can. Of course, Neil Robertson in this little mini session, he's guaranteed to be level, chance to lead at the mid-session interval. Ronnie's had a couple of long reds similar to the one that he's just attempted that he's missed thin. Just floating them into this right corner pocket. The long game from both so far today hasn't been quite as good as we might have expected. Of course, there's still time. The scoring's been good once they've gotten in. Again, another nice line with the cue ball there, the safety shot from Neil. But he may have left the red to left corner. If had it have ran on a fraction further, this wouldn't have been available. This time Ronnie misses the long red thick, so he's been a little bit thin, a little bit thick on a few of the long reds so far today. Not yet quite found that peak accuracy that we saw last night. And worse yet, he's left an easy starter for Neil.
Yes, Alan McManus has a phrase, give me the man who played well yesterday. And it's going to be hard for OSullivan to replicate that level. But he's going to have to find a certain level to stay with Neil Robertson. Can't afford to be handing him chances because we know what a confident player Robertson is. Kind of lives for days like this. Neil Robertson really feels comfortable on the big occasion.
Yeah, because we saw it earlier on in the week, didn't we? Zhao Xingtong didn't think he could play any better than he did against me. He should have been 5 centuries in a row, and I think Chris Wakelin would have been delighted to have seen him play that well. Of course, he played him in the next round and got the victory. It's very tough to keep that high level of performance consistently. And even just a slight dip compared to the previous day, it can look like a bigger contrast. Of course, the level is still very high. But Neil looking strong so far. You feel that break in the last was really, really good.
14.
And already with a half-decent chance here in the fourth.
15.
Very nicely played.
22.
Yeah, this is a more orthodox start to a potential frame-winning break, and what a chance it is now to go 3-1 in front.
Again, there was no hesitation there. Everyone sat watching can clearly see that that was always the shot, and Neil himself knows it. Straight into the reds. There was loose reds, but get into them, get them open. Because this is when he's at his most dangerous. When the balls are spread like this and he's heavy scoring. Now the first few shots from here are just going to be key. Just for Neil to find his way back in now. The reds are nicely spread. Just a little concerned with that red by the left side cushion as to where the cue ball is going to come to rest when he pots this red. Doesn't want to be hampered. And that's 23. Why he chose not to play for the black.
Well, he could have been nicer on this, couldn't he? And of course, everything's waiting. If he were to slip up. Yeah, he just took his time on it, didn't he? Just made sure he was comfortable on the shot. Was introduced to snooker by his dad, who finally got to see him win a tournament, didn't he, last year, the English Open. He came over. But he ran a snooker club in Melbourne. And Neil spent a lot of his childhood there. And turned professional first when he was 16. He actually flew over to the UK at 16 to have a go at the ranking events. He was, in retrospect, kind of too young, too raw, but he stuck at it. And has, of course, had to make massive sacrifices because he's not been home that many times to see his family in Australia.
$35. $36.
Yeah, it's tough for the UK players in particular to really appreciate what the overseas players go through. Of course, there's so many very talented Chinese players on the tour now. We've got players from all around the world. Thailand, Australia. There's a lot of sacrifices they have to make that the UK players don't really appreciate because predominantly the tour is based in the UK. 43. Of course, the tour is global, but a lot of the qualifiers and the events that are played behind closed doors to get to the main venues are all played in the UK. So, it is a big deal what these guys go through.
Yeah, when Neil first came over 44. To the UK, it was very expensive to phone home and there was no sort of Zoom or Skype. You had to go to the internet cafe, type out a message home, then the next day come and read the reply and then type it. And that's how it was. It was very difficult at a young age anyway. As I say, he stuck at it, and now look at him.
Yeah, and once again, he's worked this chance really well, Neil. Got the reds open early, and there's been a couple of little moments in this break so far that things could have maybe gone wrong. They haven't. And now looking to put the finishing touches to what's been a good little mini session for the Australian. This becomes our fourth half century of this match already, so as we predicted, the scoring boots of both are on.
55. $56. $63.
So, 2 more pots required to take a 3-1 interval lead. But it's not just that, he looks bang on it here,
64.
Robertson.
Yeah, he's looking really good, isn't he? The body language is always good of Neil Robertson. He stands tall out there. He really does prance around the table and gives off that aura of confidence. And he is looking confident. And I'm sure he wouldn't like the mini interval to arrive here. He'd quite like to stay out there, continue on with this momentum, but a great start and a 3-1 interval lead is exactly what he would have hoped for.
$70.
Yeah, you've got to certainly stay with O'Sullivan in the early stages of a long match. He's such a good front runner, but now it's Ronnie O'Sullivan who needs to find something in the next 4 frames. Just that 192 to show for his efforts so far. Still a long way to go, but advantage
73.
the Melbourne man. And now we know, of course, he's going to be going all out to make another century.
$74. $81.
Not to be for the century unless this red finds its way, which is not going to, into the pocket. But a fine start from Neil Robertson. Breaks of 76, 108 and 81. Ronnie O'Sullivan.